Myles Garrett officially wants out of Cleveland, and the Arizona Cardinals cannot sit this one out. They need to aggressively pursue the pass rusher and make him a card. We're getting into it. It's day one from Radio Row, live in New Orleans. It's PHNX Cardinals. Thanks to our friends over at Bet365. Never ordinary. We're live from Radio Row out here in New Orleans. The Big Easy. It's not just Bo Brock. It's Damon, Dawg. He's behind the Mac, making it sound and look so good. He's got that jazz music. Oh, man, it sounds so good. And then we've got our guy Shane running around, doing all sorts of work for us. And, of course, we got Johnny Venerable. He's not going to miss this one. He wouldn't miss this one for the world. It's been something that he's been trying to speak into existence. And did he speak into existence? Myles Garrett becoming an Arizona Cardinal? Well, progress towards that. We certainly had it earlier today. Plus, we got a lot of other things on the docket. The Arizona Cardinals filling out their coaching staff. Jonathan Gannon lost, 3 coaches, and looks like they've got 3 people filling them in. Last time we spoke with you guys live, we didn't have Justin Fry. We'd find that out later on Friday night, and it became official on Saturday morning. The Cardinals get the replacement for their former offensive line coach, Clayton Adams, who's now the Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator. They get they continue to keep that strong Ohio State pipeline going, and then they also hire a defensive line coach, also from the collegiate ranks from Minnesota. And then most recently, looks like the Cardinals are adding another defensive coach after losing Sam Seifkis to Virginia Tech as their next defensive coordinator. The Cardinals are making a hire from the Dallas Cowboys. It's Christian Garcia. He goes from the DB coach last year for the boys to the Cardinals inside linebacker coach. He'll match up with Mac Wilson. Want to say a fond hello to each and every one of you in the chat. What's up, T. Cleary? What's going on, Christian? Tej 105. We got Sean Rimmer, AZ Bro 95, Michael Evans, the entire squad here, Hunter Zona. You got so many people here ready to talk some cards ball, and including, how about Thomas Dimitroff? And also you've got Solomon Wilcott on deck. Couple guys who were in the league and around this league for a long time, talking some Arizona Cardinals football. Damon, Dawg, why don't you say hello to the nice crew joining us today?
How's everybody doing?
You know what? Are you asking me or are you asking them?
Because I'm asking them mostly, but also a little bit you.
I'm doing really well. Damon and I, as things got a little rocky, once we touched down here in New Orleans to start, we had a mouse in our Airbnb. Things were completely on the up and up after Steven from CHGO was a cold-blooded killer and took out the mouse. Yep. Kind of shocking to everybody. But I'll ask you this, was there any concern on your end of, like, my producer, he's not really a killer like that? Oh, do I hold it against you?
Like Steven, like, he'll do anything it takes for his crew. I would never kill a mouse for you or Johnny.
I mean, I assumed that. I didn't want to ask you just so you could maybe save some face there, but I did. Yeah, I did go straight to that. And I said, man, maybe Damon just doesn't have that next gear that Steven put on a show yesterday. Just swift as far as his actions and getting it done for the entire crew to maybe sleep a little bit easier at night, not knowing there's a 4-legged furry friend navigating the Airbnb. That's no longer the case. Maybe a mice family is without a parent. And that's unfortunate, but here we are. We're on Bourbon Street. We already had one phenomenal night out on the streets. Damon's first taste of that. We'll get into that. You're going to get all the sights, the sounds, of course, here from your friends over at PHNX. And thanks to our friends over at Bet365. Of course, the show and every show out here on Radio Row is brought to you by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use the code PHNX365 when you sign up and find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So it's not ordinary when one of the top pass rushers in the NFL, a perennial defensive player of the year candidate, becomes available. But I think that's what happened this morning as we were just kind of setting up shop here on Radio Row. It was Myles Garrett hitting the social media streets, and he was putting out a statement. I mean, there's nowhere to go as far as the Cleveland Browns go when they have and that goal fuels me today.
Can you start over
ever.
on that, Bo? I had you muted for the beginning portion of that.
All right, let's go. As a kid dreaming in the NFL, all I focused on was the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl. And then the goal fuels me today more than ever. My love for the community of Northeast Ohio and the incredible fan base of the Cleveland Browns has made it one of the toughest decisions of my life. The past 8 years have shaped me into the man I am today. And while I've loved calling the city home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It's always been to compete and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, and this for everybody, if you're not watching, it's in bold font. With that in mind, I've requested it to be traded from the Cleveland Browns, signed Myles Garrett. There it is.
That's got to hurt, man.
Look,
the bold font.
Hey, in case you guys might have got mixed up with what I was talking about, here it is in bold font. I want out. That's what he said. To Cleveland, its fan base, the organization, his representation, and all the other 31 teams in the league, especially ones in the playoffs, and those maybe knocking on the door and could be a playoff team next year. It's Myles Garrett saying, "Hey, we back up, and we're open for business. Come and get me, Monti Ossenfort." If you were wondering, Myles Garrett does follow Kyler Murray on social media. Saw that out there. That's a nice little tidbit. I believe they were for a short time.
I was going to say, were they A&M teammates together?
A&M teammates before Kyler transferred out to Oklahoma, became the Heisman Trophy winner and the #1 overall pick, just like Myles Garrett. But there's no way around this. Arizona Cardinals have an unbelievable need for pass rush and probably the best right now pound for pound pass rusher. And there's a lot of pounds, a lot of LBs there because muscle weighs more than fat with Myles Garrett. He's available. And I think Monti Ossenfort, who reportedly, according to our sources and Johnny Venerable, was inquired about right around the trade deadline, and the Cleveland Browns didn't want to move him. And the Browns remain steadfast in that they don't want to move him today. Actually, according to Jeremy Fowler, a source on the Browns, said the stance on Garrett's trade request, quote, "Nothing has changed. The team has said publicly it has no plans to trade Garrett." But as we've seen, as the NFL kind of turns more and more and takes a page from the NBA, player empowerment has been more so than ever. And often we see these trade requests fulfilled, and we see divorce happen between the player and his team and then soon to be former team. But with all that being said, the Cardinals need to get into the Myles Garrett business. I mean, this is a guy that's since he arrived from A&M has been somebody that's been making play after play and would completely take what the Cardinals want to do and marry their rush and then their cover. I mean, there's not a better option out there than Myles Garrett. And, Johnny's going to come in and he's going to say the same thing. And I think you're going to get, this podcast. We differ on a lot of different debates, but I think we'll all agree that this would be the move. This would be a slam dunk move for the Arizona Cardinals. And if you're kind of wondering, like, what would it take? You've got Diana Rossini out there who's just plugged in. She said that one NFL GM on what a trade for Myles Garrett could look like, quote, probably a 1 plus, it would be, I guess, 1 plus. That's what they're saying. It's not going to be, it will be 3 1s. Crowd has said that's not happening. It'd be a 1, a 2, or a 1 and 2 threes, maybe a player in there. And everybody, out there playing Twitter GM wants to throw in, Jalen Thompson. Poor guy gets bandied about all the trade, fictional hypothetical trades out there. I think, probably Cleveland's not going to look for a safety to pay him $14 million. So I don't know what kind of player that would be. I don't know. It would probably be like a player that's under control for the next couple seasons because there's no doubt about it. Cleveland's in a full down tear down, rebuild. They're going to be looking for draft capital first and foremost, and then they're going to look for like NFL controllable assets that they can add to their roster. I see Tim saying maybe throw BJ Ojulari in there. I mean, if you got Myles Garrett coming to the desert, I think you easily part ways with a prospect, a player that you've been excited about but hasn't been able to stay on the playing field. I don't think you'd have any qualms about parting ways with a guy like BJ Ojulari. So yeah, I don't see any true downside. I mean, he's 29 now. He's going to turn 30. Got a couple more years in his prime left. We see like a guy like Chandler Jones where the production lasts until about 32. And I think that's like kind of the window you're looking for. And then you kind of play it year by year after that. But right now, you got him under a couple controllable years. You've got the cap space to do it. And I think you've got the draft capital to get this deal done that you're not going to miss. And, I think the only argument, Damon, correct me if I'm wrong, the only argument would be go into the draft at 16th overall and try to find your own. But I don't think there's any prospect in this draft that would rival what Myles Garrett could bring to the Cardinals immediately.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think you look at the 16th overall pick, and Myles Garrett is going to give you production for 4 or 5 seasons that is going to be what you would hope a first-round pick will give you in the future. So you could definitely wrap your head around bringing in a Myles Garrett. I think it's the move that this defense needs to take it to the next level. And yeah, I'm totally with you.
I mean, you just look at Myles Garrett every single season. He's about as consistent as they come in the NFL ranks. Just double-digit sack season after double-digit sack season. 14 this past year. Before that, he's the defensive player of the year. He's got 14 sacks. He's got 16, 16, 12, 10, 13 and a half. The only time he didn't reach double digits was his rookie season where he had 7 sacks. And, I mean, this is the type of the guy that can transform what you're trying to do on the defensive side of the football. We see this team overachieve, and then it becomes no doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, I think their strength. With Nick Rallis has in place from a scheme standpoint and how he can coach him up. You give him a war daddy like Myles Garrett, it's pretty scary. It puts not only the NFC West on notice, it puts the entire league on notice. We put New Orleans on notice last night. I think that was official. But out here on Radio Row, we've got lots of guests coming up, just locked in. We're going to be talking to Cardinals tight end Trey McBride later this week. I think we're going to talk to former ASU great and former Cardinal himself, Todd Heap. That's coming up later this week. So starting to load up here as far as all the celebrities, all the former athletes and current athletes here out on Radio Row. Make sure you drop a like on this video. You're subscribed to PHNX Sports here. But enjoying ourselves out here. We've got, as I said, Solomon Wilcott's coming up here shortly. He's going to give his thoughts as far as should the Cardinals aggressively pursue a guy, Myles Garrett. And then we got Thomas Dimitroff, who used to be the GM for a very successful run for the Atlanta Falcons. But, yeah, man, this was what you've kind of been waiting for. Like, you're starting to try to figure out, like, who's going to hit the market this offseason. And you kind of sniff around Max Crosby, and it seems like the Raiders have maybe stabilized things a little bit with Pete Carroll. I talked to my buddy Q Myers over there. Your boy Q does the Locked On Raiders podcast. He's locked in an ESPN affiliate in Vegas. And it's funny, Damon, he was talking to me today, and he says, hey, a lot of Raiders fans are talking to me about Kyler Murray. Should that be somebody that the Raiders should sniff around? I'm like, look, man, Kyler's not available. The Arizona Cardinals aren't moving off of Kyler Murray without like a pivot point, right? And he's like, yeah, that's what my thought process was. I was like, think about it from where you guys are with Max Crosby. It's like Cardinals fans are easy connecting the dots. It like looks like things aren't perfect there. Maybe they would be a trade partner for Crosby. The case is doesn't seem like the Raiders are moving off him. So he's like touche. Basically, it's like, okay, we got 2 players we're talking about. We're kind of wasting time.
I mean, if you're the Raiders right now, every quarterback looks good.
Yes.
Right? Like it's like when you're at the bar late at night, Bo. It's the same way.
What are we talking about here?
I mean, it's 1:45, and the prospects are looking a little bit better than they were earlier in the night. When you're desperate, things you gotta think on your feet a little bit. Yep. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'd love to have Kyler, but that out that you're talking about was last year with the 4th overall pick, and they used it on a wide receiver. So seems pretty set in stone. Kyler Murray's the quarterback.
I get the analogy. It's also a cry for help, everybody. I mean, that's what Damon's saying.
Welcome to New Orleans,
it's
brother.
1:45, and he's already getting he's a little desperate. We got to find this guy. We got to lock this guy in. But no, I hear what you're saying. I absolutely get the analogy. But like I talked to our friends over at DLLS, and they almost laughed me off the set here, talking about Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons isn't available, but now, despite what the Browns say, Myles Garrett is available, and I'm sure they're going to start to figure out what his market's going to look like. And Monti Ossenfort's going to need to be willing to pony up 16 and then some change. So it would be like, best case scenario, 16, and maybe throw in a late day 2 pick, that 3rd round pick. And sure, like, torpedoes your draft this year. You'll be able to potentially turn your 2nd round pick into more capital potentially, as Ossenfort's done in both of his 2 drafts. But I don't think that should be something that is really going to worry this team that won 8 games and could put itself in a prime position with some savvy moves in free agency and potentially adding a player the caliber of Myles Garrett on the trade market.
Chad is asking, most important question, will we get a butt crack on camera this year?
We did see the gentleman that last year.
I'll never forget him.
Behind our set and at a full butt out, full crack. We did see him, but he's not in our general area any longer. And
I think he might have specifically asked to be not in that direction.
I think that he figured out that he became kind of part of the PHNX Cardinals lore in all the wrong ways. But no crack. I mean, you can look in the background right now, and it's just I think I see Zach Stevens back there.
It's all the DNVR Broncos.
Just, and they're. I don't think if they sit down that they're going to be showing off any crack or anything like that.
No, certainly not. Let me ask you this: did Zach Stevens ask you earlier about Bo Nix versus Kyler Murray on the All NFL show, Bo?
He did.
How does that make you feel?
He basically asked Hogue and myself about would you take Bo Nix or your quarterback? And I think the financials as far as a rookie quarterback, there's some allure there. I think that the conversation you can have it, right, and you can make your case for Bo Nix. But as far as I'd like to see the Cardinals see things through with Kyler Murray. So like we're just talking like the Broncos would never part ways with Bo Nix, and the Cardinals continue to be in Kyler Murray business. Like I don't see any reason to have that combo. But to credit to Bo Nix, he's put himself at least in the conversation.
Because if I brought this up to you last year, we were 1 week post Senior Bowl in Mobile, and you would have like laughed me out of the building.
Yeah, Aiden says the fact that I didn't laugh in his face disgusts him. Can we be real though?
He had an incredible rookie season. He looked good, man.
He did, and he had a lot of success throwing the ball downfield.
Honestly, hand up, I wanted him to not look good for my take, and
you and I both look horrible. Like it is freezing cold take after freezing cold take from you and I as far as Bo Nix.
Yeah.
So we also have to be realistic here. I mean, I see people like I'm not doing that deal, but I'm also like I'm not going to have that conversation because of how far we've already gone. Too far.
I'm totally with you here, Bo. I mean, I'm not saying that like Bo Nix is on like a different planet either, but that rookie contract is important.
It is. The financials are the key part there, and you can't ignore or discount the statistics. I mean, if you just went off, if you kind of you didn't see whose player was what stats, and you looked at them. I mean, you just point at the better performance this season, and I don't think you can deny it.
Yeah, including making the playoffs in a conference that I would say it was probably more difficult to make playoffs in as well. The AFC was a gauntlet, and the Broncos division was really, really brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. It was
I just thought it was an interesting talking point.
It was.
We're talking Zach Stevens. It just popped in my head,
Yeah. And the same thing was from Adam Hogue, who covers the Bears for CHGO so well, is like there's something about his quarterback, just like there's something about the quarterback that we cover and we root for and we want to see have success. You want to see that finally come to fruition. Kyler lead the Cardinals back to the playoffs, just like Bo Nix led the Broncos to playoffs. He wanted that for Caleb Williams. Like he could, like I think you want, like you see the talent disparity there, and I think that's real. For the arm talent from Kyler and the mobility, he's a better player than Nix, but Nix found a way to be more productive. And I don't know if that was just because he was set up for a better position of success from Sean Payton, but that's a debate. Like I said, we've already had too much of it. Let's have some conversation. I don't think it's a debate here as far as this show, and Solomon Wilcott will probably echo that, whether or not the Arizona Cardinals should be in business for Myles Garrett now that he's officially made a trade request out of Cleveland. We're going to get into that, all that and more, actually, here on PHNX Cards.
We got some sponsors to talk about first.
Absolutely. We've got our friends Carol Royce's team of real estate agents helping you buy in the Valley of the Sun. And Carol Royce has been at it for over 3 decades. Real estate team, family owned and locally operated, with her family and members serving the Valley of the Sun. Carol and her team have an unbeatable track record of having sold over 12,000 homes across the Valley. Carol knows the Arizona real estate market. Choosing the right agent, it's always so important. Too often, you're left with doubts on whether or not you make the right choice. While many agents have big promises, Carol Royce gives written guarantees. That's right. If you're buying a home, you can rest easy knowing that you're not just making the right choice, you're making the guaranteed one. Love your home, or Carol will buy it back. And hey, if you're looking to buy the dream home, you've probably been looking at Zillow or Realtor.com. Did you know that with Carol Royce, you have access to thousands of off-market homes that you won't find online? If you're considering buying a home in 2025, the name to trust is Carol Royce. When your home sold guaranteed realty, move up to the one of their listings and they'll buy your home for cash. Have questions? Call today. Visit Carol online, carolroyceteam.com. That's carolroyceteam.com, and 480-776-5231. That's 480-776-5231. Carol Royce and her team is ready to help get you in the home of your dreams. Also got to tell you about our friends over at Spinatos. We love Spinatos. Every week, me, my wife, my son, we're getting Spinatos. We got my little son, cheese pizza, and my wife and I are getting the spicy Italian. And then we're also checking out, what specials they have. But Spinatos pizza, it's a staple in the Brack household. We love them. They got Phoenix Suns watch parties going on. It's the best place to go check out when the Suns are on TV. Also, you've got people doing games of horse, but they prefer to do the game of Pizza. That's right, a game of pizza instead of horse. Parties and contests give fans a chance to win Suns tickets and free pizza. We love it. Check them out right now. Spinatos, you can order online. Also, you can, get them delivered to your house, or you can go into one of the Valley locations, of course. Tough to beat the ambiance, obviously what they got going on as far as the service. Get all the info, watch parties, pizza basketball contests, SpinatosPizzeria.com. Spinatos, the official pizza of the Phoenix Suns and PHNX Sports.
Hunter Zona in the chat saying there's a clear lack of talk about Jack Sawyer right now, and he can't quite put his finger on why.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't officially fire Johnny, but he's just not available until later in the show.
It's a trial run, I'd say. It's like, can we do it without Johnny?
Yeah. Look, we want to get him back in here, but yeah, is he kind of on hiatus? Is he kind of, are we not bringing him on because too much Sawyer? Maybe.
Does he even love it anymore?
Who, Johnny?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he does. He does.
Yeah, no one loves it more than him. He wasn't supposed to be on today, and he's texting me right now. He's coming on early.
Is he really? Is he coming on?
He wants to become on after Wilcott.
All right.
He can't take it anymore. He needs to talk Myles Garrett.
He's probably disgusted with the conversation we just had. But I blame you and Zach Stevens for making us do that. Let's get into Solomon Wilcott, because we were able to catch up. The NFL analyst, of course, he's got a morning show on NFL Sirius Radio, and then he's been, covering ball for a long time, ever since his playing days for the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's get into Solomon Wilcott. We caught up with him here on Radio Row. PHNX Sports coverage on Radio Row here. The Super Bowl continues, and we're pleased to be joined by NFL analyst, of course, the opening drive on Sirius XM NFL Radio. Solomon Wilcott's joined us, and Dr. Derek Jones going to give you some insight on some great cutting-edge medical technology. Of course, Venerable, help out with those dealing with ailing knee injuries. But Solomon, it's great to have you back on the show. We talked to you only a couple weeks ago, recapped the Arizona Cardinals season, and Monday's been a busy day. A big-time player, pass rusher, Myles Garrett, perennial, defensive play of the year candidate, has requested a trade. And I look at this Cardinals team, and one of the needs we've identified is pass rush.
Yeah.
Does it seem like a match to you?
Seems like a great match. The real key is going to be, what do you give up? And do you have some of the young pieces that you need continue to grow your team around a Kyler Murray, around a Marvin Harrison Jr., and around a Myles Garrett? Let's face it, he is one of those players that can change your franchise. There's no doubt about it. This guy's I think he's a future Hall of Famer. He's a double-digit sack guy every single season, and he stays healthy. I mean, he's a physical specimen. You know that. He's 29, so he's still in his prime. He takes great care of his body. I think he's going to attract a haul. You're going to have to give up a lot. You may have to give up players and picks in order to get a Myles Garrett.
Yeah, we've seen, the Khalil Mack deal from a couple of years ago kind of thrown around, and Mack was a little bit younger at the time, I think 27, but regardless, a defensive player of the year candidate in his own right, sack artist. But the Cardinals, it really feels like with Budda Baker on the back end of that, and you're a former safety yourself, and then some really nice young pieces at the defensive back position, the ability to rush and cover, you got the cover spot down. Does it just, when you talk about how competitive it is, like how aggressive does Arizona need to be if he becomes truly available?
I think you got to be all in.
Yeah,
I think you've got to, once you know a player fits in your culture and within the scheme and the framework of what Jonathan Gannon wants to do defensively, I think if you know that he is going to put you over the top in terms of what you've been looking for, I think you got to do it. What does pass rushers do? They close out games. If you can get a lead, you're playing with a quarterback like Kyler Murray. They ran the ball very good this past year. We know that he can put points on the board in the passing game. You're going to play with a lead. So that means you're forcing teams to throw to play catch up, particularly on the back end of games. And you need someone who can go close it out by getting the quarterback on the ground. I think you do have a good secondary. I've seen this defense play and love what you're doing on the back end. If you get a game closer and a game wrecker like Myles Garrett, you tell me, does that make Sean McVay happy with the Rams? Does that make – I mean, just go down within the division and talk about how it's going to put a frown on the face of those other teams within the NFC West division.
Well, and it seems with that division, too, it's such a gauntlet. And is a team like the Cardinals, who are now going into year 3 under a new regime, but the rebuild continues, the expectations, they increase each and every year. And to keep, everybody, I don't think anybody's counting out the Niners that finished in last place. They should be back, right? They're going to have the 11th overall pick, and they'll get healthier. The Rams reestablished themselves as a playoff team. They've got some nice young players, especially on the defensive side. And then Seattle is always in the thick of things. So, for lack of a better phrase, the arms race in the NFC West, it's important to keep up.
And it's so hard to not just keep up, but it's hard to sort of leapfrog the competition. Because think about you can't just trade even and think you're going to pass up those teams that have been better than you.
Yeah.
I mean, the 49ers have had their success. We know the Rams have had their success, and I'm talking about winning in the postseason. Seattle at times have had their success. And I think if you're Arizona and you do things just as the Rams or the 49ers or the Seahawks are doing, you don't pass them up.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt in my mind that someone like a Myles Garrett, that's a tipping point. That's a period where you start to pass up the competition. And I think how you have to look at it if you're Arizona, you ask yourself, or any team, when you're making this kind of a deal, means you got to give up a lot to get a player.
Yeah.
You better ask yourself, what does he bring to the table as a player? We already know the answer to that question.
Right.
He's got Hall of Fame talent, and he's still playing in his prime. He's not over the hill. You got to ask yourself, does he stay healthy? Is he relatively healthy? He hasn't had any kind of period of injuries over the course of his career. And then you ask yourself, as a person, as a young man, does he fit within our culture? This guy is very likable, right? He's very coachable. He fits into the framework of any locker room. Those are not things you have to worry about with Myles Garrett. So he checks all the really important boxes that you want. Productivity on the field, very coachable, very likable. He's not injury prone.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, he's a guy of high character. So what are we talking about here? Right?
It seems like you're not going to be missing that 16th overall pick or any of the future draft capital when you got Myles Garrett going out there, double-digit sacks and all that comes with that. Last question before we get to the great Dr. Jones here, Derek Jones here on set with us here at Radio Row. Solomon Wilcott says, we had the conversation about the performance in 2024 from Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. A lot more that we wanted to see from this offense. Yeah. If there is that complementary football, at least provided by the defense, regardless if they get Myles Garrett, like what jump should we expect from Kyler and Marv in year 2 together?
Just greater chemistry, right? Time on task helps you to evolve, I think, in a way that lends itself to what? Greater consistency and productivity. So the more time you put on something or put into it, you expect to get better. You expect to be more consistent at it. You expect to have a higher level of production and achievement. And I think that's what you look at someone like a Joe Burrow and a Jamar Chase. Mm-hmm. Now they're playing with house money because they played together in college. Think about that. And now you see what it's evolved to with their time spent together in the NFL.
Yeah.
They're only playing in their 3rd, maybe 4th year in the pros. But you go back to the years they had in college, it looks like they've been playing together their entire lives, right?
Yeah.
They seem to read each other very well. I do believe you have the opportunity to have that kind of quarterback wide receiver combination. I know those huge expectations to put on Marvin Harrison Jr. Is he going to be a triple crown winner in terms of leading the league in receiving yards and touchdowns? Probably not. Okay, that's a lot. But I'm just saying in terms of the level of efficiency and the productivity that you can get from your quarterback wide receiver combination, I think is at a very high level.
Let's real quick. Let me just slide this one last question in because Burrow made the comment just a couple days ago about T. Higgins is going to probably be the most sought out free agent this offseason if he does hit the open market, and Burrow's saying we can pay me, we can pay Jamar Chase, we can pay T. Higgins and Trey Higgins all at the same time. Is that realistic, or do you think that they're going to have to make a tough decision as an organization?
I certainly think it's realistic that you can pay the quarterback and the 2 wide receivers. And I use that because we have examples. You got a team in the Super Bowl that's doing that.
Yeah.
Right? Jalen Hurts is get $50 million a year. A.J. Brown get $30 million a year. And you got Devontae Smith right around $28 million a year. So you have a quarterback and 2 wide receivers who are making at the top of the market. And they're in the Super Bowl. So tell me, why can't the Bengals do it? Mm-hmm. No one's been able to tell me that. Every year. Now, I tend to get the numbers of the check that they get from the league. They share revenue.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So these numbers are made public to members of the media. And last year, their cut of that shared revenue was upwards of over $400 million. Every team got a check from the league. That's just the revenue that they share.
Right.
Not the part that they make on their own. So. Right. That now, you know what the salary cap was this past year? It was right around $250.
Yeah, it's going up.
So if you made $400 million and you only had to spend $250 on salary,
I
don't know. My math tell me they can afford it, and still they come out with a profit. Am I fair?
No, I think you're being
okay.
Way unfair.
I just wonder if we were working with the same math.
Yeah, and look, it seems like Joe Burrow is doing the same. He's got the same calculations going on. Great stuff from Solomon Wilcott there, really agreeing, I think, with the pod, saying that the Cardinals, if Myles Garrett is available, you aggressively pursue that player just because of his consistency, the upside that he brings to the defense, and really going to put you in a position where you're not going to miss any of that draft capital it's going to take to acquire a player the caliber of Myles Garrett. Coming up on the other side, are we going to connect with Johnny Venerable?
Believe so.
All right. Whether or not we get with Johnny, probably the worst mock draft of draft season already is dropped. It's really a stinker for the Arizona Cardinals, and we'll give you some more insight as far as their new coaches on Jonathan Gannon's staff. All coming up here. here on PHNX Cardinals. Want to tell you about our friends over at Pure Edibles. We love our friends over at Pure Edibles. You know what? I had a tough time sleeping last night, Damon, and I wish I had one of my Pure Edible kicks. They would have helped me with the sleep time part of this thing and helped me get to sleep and get a better sleep than I did night one here in New Orleans. Pure Edibles was founded in Arizona, available in 130 dispensaries statewide. I didn't even know there was 130 dispensaries in our great state, but they are, and Pure Edibles is in each and every one of them. Pure gummies, not covered in sugar like all their competitors out there. It's just not. It's trying to get like these very like flavorful things. It's a full-fledged candy company. Like they take a lot of pride in how good their Pure Edibles taste, but they're not going to bog you down with an unhealthy amount of sugar. Pure effects also clearly listed on each 10. You know exactly what effects you're going to expect from Pure offers those gummies. Their sleep support, as I mentioned, they got the candies of uplifting effects derived from unique cannabinoids and also CBN, CBG, and CBD with marijuana derived from THC. Pure was created in Flagstaff. Noble Herb Dispensaries moved down the road to Phoenix. Now they're proud to call it PHNX home. They got the edibles now made here in our big city. Pure gummies also designed to be ripped, bit in half, making them easily shareable and easy to dial in that exact dose. Go find yourself Pure edible products from one of the over 130 dispensaries in Arizona. Also, the big game week, it's upon us, right? We're going to be out there opening night tonight. Let me tell you about Bet365, of course, never ordinary. Bet365, 90 million users worldwide. If you're not one of them, what are you doing with yourself? Download the world's most used app for sports betting. Bet365 live streams 780,000 events each year. Early payout offers across the NBA, NFL, NHL, and Major League Baseball. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting. Today, Bet365 offers the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. Check them out right now. Download the Bet365 app today. You get win or lose, of course. Bet365, you got the opening offer. New customers get $150 in bonus bets when you get $5 win or lose. Sign up. Use the code PHNX365. Deposit $10. Place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 years or older, physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's text NEXT STEP to 53342 and visit problemgambling.az.gov. Hanging out here, PHNX Cardinals, Damon, Dawg, myself. We have our guy, Johnny Venerable.
We do indeed have our guy here, Bo.
Let's get him on. It felt I missed my friend. We need to get him in here. Johnny, how we doing, my man?
I can't see you. Where are you at?
Well, I mean, look, you're just gonna have to
Damon's beautiful face. Is that how it's supposed to look, Dame?
Yes. You got to follow my voice.
Okay.
That's it. That's all I get from you as well.
Did that help,
There
Johnny?
we go. That's better.
Yep.
I heard, earlier some really derogatory things said about me on my show.
No.
And, here I am fired up to come see my brethren, albeit they're probably going to make me sleep in a pull-out couch where mice are being housed. But nonetheless, trying to drop scoops, break stories over the last 3 or 4 days, and then this is the welcome I get. That doesn't make me feel very good.
I don't know why you feel so insulted. I don't feel like we've been disrespectful or said your name in any ill vein at all.
No, that it is what it is. I just, I heard segment 1 today. Let's just move past that. Let's focus on the topics at hand. I love the interview with Sam and Wilcott, by the way.
Pretty much in lockstep with you and me and Damon and anybody I talk to. It's like when Myles Garrett, if he becomes available, you go get him.
We had some insight into this a couple of months ago. We posed it as it relates to the Cardinals calling on a number of elite pass rushers at the deadline and being told what? No, they were told no continually. I'm told they even talked about draft picks. There was even discussion from Ossenfort and company about draft picks and future picks of that. Multiple draft classes of draft picks. You can connect the dots where you want.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals called on Myles Garrett, just like they called on Max Crosby, and they were emphatically told no. And that just shows you, Bo and Damon, the short-sightedness of the Browns. But now you fast forward, it's like would the Browns like a mulligan on that offer? Because I think we can all connect the dots. Cardinals are 6-4. They collapsed to 8-9. If we're talking about pick 16 being offered now in hindsight, who's offering them a higher pick than 16? And I know definitively what the Cardinals offered at the deadline will be less than what they could potentially offer this offseason. I mean, it's Browns 101 dysfunction. So I would imagine that this gets done by some team, but I don't know if it's the Cardinals now. I think the Cardinals, I don't want to say may have dodged a bullet here, and I know you opened the show. I'm with you. If you can get Myles Garrett for pick 16 and some change, you do that. But you're not mortgaging your future. I'm told for a guy who's going to be 30 years old, who by the way has a couple bad feet right now. I mean, if Myles Garrett goes down at any point, like you're done. This feels like a Steve Keim move if it involves multiple first round picks.
It won't. I mean, that's what Diana Rossini is heard, and she debunked that, where people wanted to say it's going to cost 3 firsts, and one NFL GM said, "Yeah, no way." But if it's going to be a first and a future second, or a first and 2 threes, I mean, I think that any Cardinal fan would be content with making that deal.
Yeah, I will the Browns be content with that? I think about teams that are going to be consistently picking in the 20s, and that's where the Cardinals want to be. But like a Green Bay, who always is picking between like 22 to 28, right? The Commanders now, given their timeline, Bo, they're not paying Jaden Daniels any money. I think, and this is just saying the hard part out loud, which we've been doing this, since the end of the year. Is it good business for the Cardinals to commit to older players via a trade? Free agency, do whatever you want, but via a trade and giving up premium draft capital when Kyler Murray is essentially going into a make or break season, right? I mean, I heard you talk about Bo Nix earlier on the show. Like, this is a move for like Denver. Hey, we got our quarterback. We're going to trade for Myles Garrett. We need to be more competitive. This is why the Cardinals under Steve Keim once upon a time, Bo, traded for, Hopkins and Chandler Jones because they feel like they had a timeline. Yeah. Like, I love Kyler Murray as much as anybody else. Like, if this is a scenario in which you're trading premium picks for a guy that doesn't play quarterback, and then your quarterback play goes down the drain again, then what'd you trade for him for?
Yeah,
like Myles Garrett's not fixing all your problems.
He helps it out quite a bit. I mean,
I understand that.
What he can do up front, it wouldn't be the only move that you would make this offseason. I mean, obviously with giving up, a pick, potentially 2 picks this draft, it handcuffs you a little bit to where you're going to have to lean on free agency to fill in some of the gaps you have on your roster. But, you add a guy like Myles Garrett, and he's the caliber of player that he can make up for a lot of your issues. And, I don't think that they have a ton of like glaring needs outside of the pass rush on the defensive side of the football. You add Myles Garrett, maybe, an interior defensive lineman and off-ball linebacker in free agency, and your defense looks really good. So
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think that it's going to come down to what is market, how it materializes, how aggressive it is. If the NFL world, the other 30 GMs in this league are going to dig in on what they're willing to spend for him, and if somebody doesn't come on from over the top on a guy like Monti Ossenfort, because I think like the 16th overall pick is going to be a really good pick, considering like who's going to be aggressively in the market for Myles Garrett and what they're willing to give up. Like I saw Matt Miller throw out the Khalil Mack deal, and it's not the same because Khalil Mack was 27 at the time. Myles Garrett
Matt Miller
20.
there, by the way? Do we need to do a segment on Matt Miller to just Miller? Do you do your homework, man? What do you do?
No, he doesn't. I teased it, and now this is kind of like spoiling it. It's fine. Like, it was the worst mock draft I've seen all draft season.
I like Matt Miller. He came up through the ranks of like SB Nation. He's a nice guy. Not everybody respectfully is meant to do this for all 32 teams. Matt, you want to coin in on your West Coast or East Coast market? That's fine. When you put out a mock draft today that has the Cardinals taking not 1 but 2 cornerbacks, that's embarrassing. I would be embarrassed if I was Matt Miller today.
I would too.
In that article.
Thanks for saying it, but I'll echo those comments. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe, like, somebody quote tweeted it and said, "Can you believe that he has the Cardinals taking corners in back-to-back rounds?" And I had to open it just to see it for myself.
And in the write-up, I almost sent you you have the write-up, but I almost sent you the write-up.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, got to load up the secondary with Budda Baker. They have one of the best corners in the NFL in Garrett Williams. No mention. They took a corner last year with a high ceiling, Max Melton. No mention. It's like, come on, guys. Let's pump the brakes. I did see, though, to get back on the Myles Garrett train, a lot of people are connecting the dots of what we've been reporting, of what the show had first, which is the Cardinals called on Myles Garrett, just like they did on Max Crosby. And, like, they're in the mix with about 7 to 10 teams. I'm going to tell everybody right now, I've been trying to get an answer on this since this news broke this morning, but, like, the Cardinals aren't out on Myles Garrett. They're in it to a point, right? But then the question then becomes, like, what's your breaking point if you're Ossenfort, Bo? Like, if you find out the LA Rams are in on Myles Garrett, do you then up your offer? If the San Francisco 49ers are, like, trying to come back from the dead next year and they offer their first-round pick, like, that's where Monti Ossenfort has to walk a fine line between what is an all-in season or a season where we have to make improvements enough to get us to the next step, but we can't mortgage our future.
Right.
The Cardinals mortgaged their future in 2021. And what did it get them? 11-win season, one and done, and then everybody got fired the next year. Rodney Hudson and all those moves. You can't go back and do that kind of thing. Now, Myles Garrett is infinitely better than any player that Keim, respect to D-Hop and company, ever secured.
Chandler Jones.
And Chandler Jones. And I love Chandler. But I also feel like, Bo, like, I don't think the Cardinals are a Myles Garrett away. I thought maybe that could be the case when they were 6-4. Let's say they ended 11-6 and they won the NFC West and they took a step, playoffs or not, winning a playoff game. If that's where we sat today, we would all be in unison, go make this move. You were 8-9 this year. And you were 8-9, not because your defense had overachieved, because your offense peed the bed at the end of the year. I mean, you went 2-5 down the stretch. You couldn't score touchdowns. That to me does not say trade a bunch of picks for a guy who's going to be 30 years old. That's kind of where I'm at. And that's my opinion. That might not be what the team decides to do.
But I don't know how that fixes what you outlined there was the struggling offense. Like, how does going out and aggressively pursuing Myles Garrett hamper your ability to tweak the offense to where it doesn't continue to bumble?
Well, I mean, my question for you is, are you giving up future picks for Myles Garrett? I think you and I would both be of the same mindset that is not a good idea, right? Do you have an opportunity to get better offensively via this draft? Are you taking a tackle? Are you taking a quarterback in the second or third round? Like, all that is now in play for 2025. I just don't think you can be in the business, save for giving up pick 16, of trading for a veteran player.
So 16 in your third round pick is a no-go for you?
No, that doesn't. No, I'm not going to sit here and say that. And I liked your idea earlier of trading down in the second and try maybe getting 2/3 and stockpiling a little bit. And this is a year that you're going to load up defensively in a draft anyway. But I think I'm just at the point right now where the defense needs improvements to get them to a top 10 unit. But even with a top 10 unit, the offense has to be better. And I just worry about, like, does Myles Garrett to the Cardinals put unrealistic expectations offensively of what they're truly capable of? That would be a concern for me. You know who, like, again, Jaden Daniels proved everybody wrong this year. Jaden Daniels defensively adding Myles Garrett, that feels warranted. The Cardinals right now, I don't know how you finished if that warrants that move. I could be in the minority. I'd have to check the chat.
Yeah, we'll check the chat. We'll continue this conversation and then some here on PHNX Cardinals. Got to tell you about our friends over at Verizon. I've been traveling around, made my way from the Valley down to, of course, the Big Easy, New Orleans, and I didn't have to think twice about my cell coverage at all. Verizon, of course, it's the most reliable service right now. And it's tough to beat. If you're tired of your phone bill draining your bank account, check out what Verizon has in store for you right now. $800 to pay off your current phone. They can get you out of your bad phone deal right now if you feel like that's what you need to maybe get on the right track financially and obviously lock in solid service from our friends over at Verizon. Verizon feels your pain. For a limited time, new customers can get up to $800 in prepaid MasterCard to pay off your current smartphone loan when you switch. That's right, you heard $800. Just trade in any phone from the top brands with select unlimited plans. This deal, it's not going to last long. So don't get stuck on the bench. Switch to Verizon today and take control of your game plan. Visit your local Verizon store for all the details. I love my Verizon. I'll never, go away from my Verizon. It's been the most reliable service by far. And if you can get in right now, get out of a bad plan and pay off your phone, it's the way to do it. Also, the way to do it when you're traveling, you want to look cool. You got your friends over at Shady Rays, of course, very affordable price point for Shady Rays that do not look cheap at all. They are legit sunglasses, premium polarized shades that are built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break your bank. Well below $100. Shady Rays independent sunglasses company offering world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades durable, frames crystal clear, optics making them a perfect choice for all your outdoor adventures. Check them out right now, shadyrays.com, and check out why 300,000 people have rated them 5 stars online. Shady Rays and shadyrays.com, and make sure to use the promo code PHNX. That's right, PHNX is the promo code to save yourself 30% off on Shady Rays.
Get your barf bag ready. Drew Rosenhaus been hired by Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat being pubbed up by Rosenhaus for his 8 sacks this year. I mean, if you needed any more reason to welcome back Hassan Reddick with open arms for a quarter of the discount, I mean, Rosenhaus talking about Josh Sweat being a premier player. He has 8 sacks, Drew.
Yeah.
He has no sacks in the postseason. That might spell the end for the Cardinals potentially pursuing Josh Sweat. That move right there.
Johnny, wait until you show up here at Radio Row. The 2 Eagles players they have on representing the Eagles on a big graphic are Jalen Hurts and Josh Sweat.
No
way.
My God. I didn't even see that.
Howie Roseman's trying to get that 3rd round comp pick, man.
Oh, there he is.
I don't think
number 19, Josh Sweat.
I don't think Josh Sweat's made a play since before Thanksgiving. I've watched 2 months of Eagle football. Where is he? Cardinals. He's got to fix all of our problems.
We have, we're PHLY out here covering the Eagles in their run here to the Super Bowl. And I was talking to one of the hosts of the show, and I was like, is Josh Sweat, is some team going to overpay for Josh Sweat in free agency? Like so many people are connecting the easy dots to the Arizona Cardinals. But I said, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. It's easy to connect Gannon to Sweat. But then once you factor in the really kind of tough market for edge rushers and what he's going to command contract-wise now with Drew Rosenhaus, one of the NFL power agents out there, I do think it's becoming further and further from, the option of them reuniting. I mean, I even said it, and you'll love this. I said, wouldn't they just want to buy low on a guy like Hassan Reddick instead of having 100%. To throw a lot of cap dollars at Sweat? It just doesn't make sense to me now.
People are going to come on the show after a quick break. We're going to go to Super Bowl and Combine, and then there's going to be stuff mixed in, and then they're just going to come back in March, and they're going to be like the PHNX Cardinals right since day one, just projecting Hassan Reddick. There's too many people on Twitter, respectfully, that have pointed out they'll never do a reunion with Reddick. Are you sure? How about the more information we get? Are you sure about that? You've got Myles Garrett, who's 30 years old, that you'd have to trade multiple premium picks for. Again, Hassan Reddick, if he's healthy, comes to Arizona next year as double-digit sacks, and we're scoffing at that? Or you want to pay Josh Sweat, who's done it one time on a loaded championship defense 2 years ago, 11 sacks. That's the best version of Josh Sweat. What happens when he goes to a defense that doesn't have a bunch of premier players on their defensive line, and he has 6.5 sacks and plays 12 games? How's that contract going to be looking? Hassan Reddick was the best defensive player on the Eagles 2 years ago. Then he sat out a year with the Jets, and now he's going to come back and be a member of the Arizona Cardinals, and we're all going to benefit from it. Yeah, it's just lining up perfectly, Bo.
He does a lot of things fine. He does. I think that his age has kept him with this organization. I was talking to Bo Wolf, and Bo was saying Sweat was available last year. and
Yeah.
nobody really like went after him
The
aggressively.
Cardinals could have had him.
Right. And, he ends up, signing the deal to remain an Eagle, 1 year, $10 million. And now I think he's set to cash in just based on what's not available as far as really kind of proven commodity pass rush options, for a league that obviously it's a premium position.
You make that great point. I'd forgotten that he was a free agent last year. And like you and I briefly talked about him, and then the Cardinals could have signed him, and they said like he would have come to Arizona.
Was he a free agent, or he was in the final year of his deal and he
maybe it was
wanted
a
more money?
transition tag or something, a restricted free agent or something. I don't know. 4th round pick, max. He's going to max out his draft status or draft stock, his athletic potential. I mean, if you're Philadelphia, if you're drafted into the Eagles organization, you're either going to get paid by the Eagles or somebody else as a front 7 player.
Was somebody saying this, Damon, or was this your own idea that Howie Roseman's just sitting there like, hey, give me the 3rd round comp pick?
I think Jamie from PHOY came up with that,
Yeah,
but I'm definitely riding with it. I think that's 100% what happened.
Yeah. Philly probably lets him walk.
This guy's awesome, guys. He's incredible.
Put on the all the signage.
How about Saquon? How about Josh Sweat?
I love how like Myles Garrett, I feel like is going to be traded. And then all the people that said Max Crosby in his walking boot is untradeable, and yet he's almost the same age for a team in a similar spot. I mean, we got 2 teams in the top 6 with no players, no direction, and in a loaded conference. Let's not deal our almost 30-year-old pass rushers that have been hurt before for teams that are looking to win now in Crosby and Myles Garrett. Like you can't sit there as a Raider fan and tell me that if Myles Garrett gets multiple picks, that you wouldn't do the same for Matt. You're the Raiders. You have no direction. You just hired Chip Kelly. Who's playing quarterback for you? People were lauding that move.
Yeah.
$6 million for Chip Kelly. Who's playing Aiden O'Connell? These guys that are resetting the timeline.
Will Howard probably
assets to spearhead your rebuild. All these pass rushers are getting dealt, in my opinion. Of course they are.
And the Chip Kelly hire, it was a good move by Ossenfort and Gannon to get the deal done with Justin Fry before Kelly's deal became official, because Chip Kelly was going to be sniffing around bringing his offensive line coach from Ohio State. So it was a good job by the Cardinals organization to act quickly on Clayton Adams. I think it's they deserve a lot of credit for acting quickly on all these hires, Johnny.
Yeah. Well, we broke the story on Justin Fry, and then we recorded a segment. If you check that out on our YouTube page, dropped yesterday, kind of broke down the impact of Fry. A lot of people feel like that's going to be a seamless transition. Listen, I'm going to give Clayton Adams the benefit here and let Justin Fry get a year in the NFL. But Justin Fry was coveted by multiple NFL teams, including Chicago Bears, and they had to pivot to Roshar, who, former Saints special teamer, no slouch, but they wanted Justin Fry. And Gannon got Justin Fry. And we mentioned this on our segmented clip, like, no more calling Michael Bidwell cheap in the interim. He got Justin Fry and paid Justin Fry out of his pocket. That's not cap money to come to Arizona. So that's number one. And then the 2 additions they've made defensively, I got a text before or after that broke today, because I had no idea. We got kind of tipped off on Winston, who was teammates with Nick Rawls, who's going to be coaching the defensive line. But then, our guys at DLS will be able to shine some light on this. But Todd Archer, Christian Garcia is joining the Cardinals staff. A lot of people feel like the Cardinals have upgraded at both linebacker coach and defensive line coach since last year. Like these 2 moves feel like an upgrade off of last year. I'm told like the Cardinals were a little bit disappointed with, obviously, the development of some of their front 7 players. And they probably feel like guys should have been making more of an impact. Now, I would argue the talent's not there, but it just shows you like Gannon making these additions has a higher bar, even to a defense that allowed 15 points per game with marginal talent at best, Bo.
Yeah. For those watching on our TV partners, our streaming partners, thank you for tuning in. Of course, go to gophnx.com to continue this episode of PHNX Cardinals. The defensive line coach kind of excites me for a couple different reasons, Johnny. Winston De Lati Bodair. Lati
Yes.
Baudier. Yeah. Former Minnesota guy, also from the collegiate ranks, but that seems like a Nick Rawls hire to me.
It does.
And
I mean, go ahead.
to empower him and already put him in a position to like find his guys and build his staff. Like I feel like the first iteration of Jonathan Gannon's staff was like JG guys, and for him to kind of let him continue to get the keys here and kind of retool some things and develop some coaches underneath him, I really like to see that.
It's 100% a Nick Rawls guy. Minnesota ties, and I was going to post this on Twitter, and then you just need context. Like it just feels good that the Cardinals with this coaching staff find ascending coaches instead of descending coaches, which is the term is retread. And we got tweeted like, are they going to hire Mike Munchak? Are they going to hire Mike Zimmer? Are they going to hire these older coaches? No, those coaches aren't coveted by teams with options.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are the kind of coaches that respectfully that Cliff and some other coaches would have to defer to. That's not how Gannon operates. That's not how Nick Rawls and Drew Petzing operate. Monti Ossenfort. They're like, let's get the best offensive line coach in the Big Ten in Justin Fry. Let's get a defensive line coach, defensive coordinator for Minnesota. There's the assistant head coach for a team that's ascending. And let's bring him to the NFL because we think he's got NFL coaching traits. I just feel like you're buying on a stock that should, double or triple in price in the next couple of years, like they did with Clayton Adams. No one knew who Clayton Adams was, and they identified him. Now he's the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. That's how McVay stays great and Kyle Shanahan. This continuity of pipelining coaches. I think we've hampered on this. I know Weinfist put a tweet out. The Cardinals staff is so respected in the inner circles of the NFL.
Yeah.
They're having coaches plucked from a team with a losing record. What is that in year 2 of a rebuild? What does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean, you've got the Detroit Lions who win the NFC North and, of course, bow out in the divisional round. But, they're losing their staff. And I think, like, you start to look around, and Chiefs, Eagles are going to have some coaches that people are going to try to get. But Cardinals losing a couple guys, especially at some key spots. And, like, luckily, the word isn't out about Nick Rawls just yet. And they were able to put him in a position, and I'm sure this even empowers him more that he got to, pick his guy to be his defensive line coach to replace Derek Levon, who they moved off of earlier this offseason.
I mean, all these guys are going to be at the combine, and then they're all going to have their hand, in these free agent additions. Like we've been told here on the show, like the Cardinals are wrapping up their free agent evaluations here prior to the combine. Like that's about done. We're watching that throughout the course, I think the latter half of January, and they're going through their hierarchy. Like we're going to find out what they think emphatically. And this is the show that hopefully is going to be able to bring you some names ahead of free agency, just like we did 2 years ago with Joshua Dobbs, just like we did last year. I mean, every year, we had Kazir White before anybody else. We will make it known. Like if the Cardinals are tied to somebody and it's available to us, we'll make it known on this podcast. And that information is coming.
Is that real? Is that real booking? Okay. We got a big-time guest booked for tomorrow. World Series winner Curt Schilling's going to join the show tomorrow.
Wow. Damon, big baseball guy. How you feel about that?
D-backs legend.
D-backs legend.
It's about my thoughts.
Get Curt Schilling on the show. I mean, you never know who you're going to get on the show here at Radio
It could be anybody.
Yeah. Johnny, I'm excited to talk to some former Cardinals tonight at the opening night. Apparently, D-Hop's got a podium, but Hollywood Brown is down on the floor. He'll be available. I'll go talk to Marquise, Hollywood Brown. DJ Humphries, really excited to see what Hump's up to. And then, we'll see what if Josh Sweat envisions what he's going to do with all the millions of dollars he's going to make this offseason, and if he's scoping out in any Arizona residents.
I'm excited for Josh Sweat to compare himself to Myles Garrett after today. I'm very on par with Myles. I feel like we're in the same category. People are gonna be like, "Who are you?" Make sure Josh Sweat's nameplate is fully visible so people know who he is.
Come on, man. We're still not out of like the water, like that he could be a future Cardinal.
No, listen. He might have.
In fact, your
He could have
trash
2
talk
sacks in
only
this
makes
game.
it even more possible.
Well, you dogged on Reddick for 4 months. Now it's you and I are coming to grips with the fact that it feels like one of these two guys is going to be a Cardinal, and it's just going to be a coin flip. But it feels like you're coming around to the Reddick notion a little bit more with each passing Rosenhaus announcement and no show and the Eagles. I mean, it's like the Eagles' defensive line. It's like a buffet of giving out sacks and TFLs, and he can't get a plate. He can't go and get a tackle for loss. Where is he? I legitimately watched that game. The NFC Championship game, I'm like, I'm keying in on Josh Sweat for 4 quarters. Didn't see him at all. Did he have a tackle?
I don't know. I mean, Jalen Carter is selfish, and he doesn't leave anything for anybody else. I think that's what I'll chalk it up to. Should we wait for Thomas Dimitroff? We're pretty late in the game here.
Up to you, man.
What do you think, Johnny? Should we give more from Radio Row, or should we hold it for tomorrow?
Well, I will not be on tomorrow. Because I will be traveling to see what I thought were my PHNX brethren.
What are you talking about?
I just don't know.
Why do you feel like we've disrespected you so much?
I feel like early in the show, Damon said that he called this quote a trial run of how this was going to go. That's embedded now into my soul. And yeah, maybe I'll have a trial run somewhere else. Maybe I'll give Alex Clancy a trial call for a trial run. How about that?
You don't say things you don't mean.
I don't mean that at all. No, I would never do that. So what are the vibes? Tell me, how close is the Airbnb and the location to downtown?
Could throw a rock from our Airbnb and hit the convention center.
Mouse?
Yeah.
You could throw a mouse. That's indeed a fact. Johnny, it's the best situation of all time. I mean, we're
seriously
so
better
close.
than last year at Indy. Indy was pretty sweet last year.
I mean,
yeah, it's closer.
I'm going to make eye contact with Pat McAfee. I mean, he's right. He would be 15 feet from us. Our old friend.
So not a lot of notables there yet, is what you're telling me.
Talked to Chris Sims. I was like, Chris, I need the Kyler Murray temperature check. He said, find me out here on Radio Row. We'll definitely connect. Saw Albert Breer. Said, Breer, need to get the latest from Monti Ossenfort. What's going on with this Cardinals organization? He said to find him. So we got a couple lines right now, and as we fish for some big time guests, but already have a couple more on tap. I don't know if you got this. We're going to talk to Todd Heap later in the week. Trey McBride. We announced that Trey McBride's going to join the show on Thursday. So can't wait for all the guests coming up here from New Orleans.
How do you not mention Psycho?
I did, yeah. I saw Bernard Saikovitz, the Cardinals tight end, part of the international program. Saw him out here, and he said he wants to come on the show. So I think we might do like just an all tight end Thursday. Like we're going to get Todd Heap, we're going to get Trey McBride, and we're going to go with Bernard Saikovitz, the Cardinals. He's on the Cardinals practice squad, but he's one of their international pathway program players.
Love that.
Tip Ryman declined. He said, no, Johnny's too nasty of a guy.
I heard that Tip's moving to edge rusher. Will be a two-way player now. He won't be available. Tip leading the team with 3.5 sacks in 2025. If the Cardinals balk at all the free agent asking prices.
Tip said, he's like, how many shows are here? And I don't know, probably 150. He's like, I'm going to do 149 and make sure not to come on yours because of what that guy Johnny said about me throughout my rookie year where I was a good role player for this team.
It's not about the person or the player. It's about where he was picked. It's about the price of the stock, not the stock itself. But no, well, I'm fired up to see you bros. Mean comments aside, but I'm glad you guys made it safe. What's the plan for tonight? Don't do anything too fun until I get there.
No, like I said, we're going to catch up with some former cards, maybe some future cards. Going to go seek Milton Williams out on opening night tonight. See if we can get him to commit. Maybe like we can't give him a contract or anything, but maybe we verbally agree to something.
Yes. Yeah. I speak for the Cardinals when I say that you'll be a Cardinal. We'll get you some property listings in Paradise Valley and North Phoenix.
PV, you'll love it. It's great.
He's like, who are you with? I'm sorry?
You understand I have a game to play, the biggest game of my life for the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, yeah, don't worry about that.
I'm going to say – oh, go ahead, Johnny.
No, go ahead, Damon.
I was just going to say, like, regarding you saying don't have too much fun while we're out here before you get here, I feel like Johnny, whenever he comes in on his annual Wednesday, he's just a ball of energy.
He is.
And he really brings the boom when it comes to us going out and doing stuff late at night. Like, me and Bo, we'll be tucked in at 9:30 tonight. I mean, we just
God, that's so false.
just crushing content, you know? Johnny's the party guy.
He's the sixth man of the year. He's the sixth man of the year. You call him off the bench, you know, in the game, late in the game,
That
and
is the
he
most disrespectful
no, it's
thing.
not.
You're treating me like the Mavs traded Luka. 6-man, expendable.
Oh, way to just turn yourself in from a 6-man to one of the best players in the NBA. Just you treat me like Luka Doncic.
Did we spend enough time ripping on Matt Miller? I'm not sure that got enough. You want to do like 60 minutes more on how bad Matt Miller is at his job?
Can you tell me? Let's bring up that mock draft and just tell the people. It's the worst of the mock draft season.
How bad he is at his job, respectfully.
Listen, I have nothing against him personally. I saw somebody sent this to me earlier today, and I was just like, that's enough to make me never want to read ESPN.com. Now, the first 3 picks, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, Mason Graham, like the usual suspects, right? Like the top 10 is not that egregious. Okay. Then we get into the Niners take Josh Simons, or is it Simmons or Simons?
Josh Simmons, yeah.
Josh Simmons, who could be a Cardinal. Justin Fry probably has something to say about it. He goes to the Niners, fine. Dallas takes the wide receiver out of Texas, Matthew Golden. Another tackle goes to Damon's precious Dolphins. Tyler Warren goes to the Colts. I mean, this falls perfectly for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Mikel Williams does go to the Falcons. He's got the Cardinals taking Jada Barron, a corner out of Texas. Here's who goes after Jada Barron.
Okay.
Shamir Stewart, the edge out of Texas A&M. Okay.
Yeah.
There's one edge rusher. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. Walter Nolan available. They pass on him. James Pierce Jr., they pass on him. Mike Green, they pass on him. Jack Sawyer, they pass on him. Jack Sawyer goes just outside the first round. The Boston College edge rusher, no. So here's his write-up. The Cardinals could go a number of different directions. Oh, wow, thanks. The first 2 positions, he says, wide receiver and cornerback. And then he says defensive end. Barron took home the Jim Thorpe Award as the best DB in the nation after moving from slot corner to outside corner. He had 5 picks. He's a good player. Some teams might view him as an inside corner, while Barron's tape says outside. Oh, great. Let's get more slot corners the Cardinals don't need. Pairing him with Budda Baker gives the Cardinals instant improvement in the back end. The Cardinals had one of the best secondaries at the end of the year, Matt. Try again. And then, to make matters worse, in the second round, he has the Cardinals going a cornerback, Shavon Revel Jr. And again, I have no idea who this is. I'm not going to pretend like I do. He's a corner from East Carolina. He tore his ACL. And he said the Cardinals are lacking size and speed in their secondary. Matt, if you're going to do this kind of mock draft, leave the Cardinals out. Here's what you need to do moving forward, Matt Miller. Put vacant or default or pass on that pick because, again, you're better off putting nothing there than just fabricating this garbage. And I get it. You have to do a breakdown for all 32 teams. Sorry, you can't just do 6 write-ups on San Francisco. But to me, it's like, if you're going to cover all 32 teams, then cover them, Matt. That's an egregious mock draft.
Does anyone know less Cardinals ball than Matt Miller?
I don't think so. I mean, this goes way back to like the Matt Barkley days where, you know, he was hearing that if Matt Barkley doesn't make it further than 7 for the Arizona Cardinals back in the 2013 draft, guess what? He made it all the way to about
4th round,
57, I think, 67. Yeah, he was a 3rd round pick where Matt Miller said he was going to be 7th overall, and they ended up going with Jonathan Cooper instead. Yeah, I don't know. It's really unfortunate you can't turn to ESPN and get at least some educated guess better than back-to-back corners, and it's not even like the best corners available.
People are going to think I'm shilling. We've talked to a lot of draft people since I've been with this company, since Bo and I have been doing this, hell, since before I joined PHNX Sports. If you read that garbage and then you listen to Fran Duffy on our show during the Senior Bowl, talk about the Cardinals and their specific Cardinal needs. Now, put aside this, he worked for the Eagles. He knows Gannon. He knows Nick Rollis. He knows what would fit. if you need any more incentive to become a diehard and read Fran Duffy, who is tailor-making prospect breakdown evaluations for the Cardinals and the rest of ALLCITY, I mean, it's just read that garbage and then look at Fran and his hits last week, the hits that he's going to have with us this draft season. I'm at the point, I'm just tuning everybody else out after that.
I agree. I mean, there's no reason to partake, or it's not even entertainment value to read a mock draft this bad.
But how about dropping a like for a show that it's this good? How about that?
Well, we missed you out here, man. We can't wait for you to make your way to New Orleans. You leave tomorrow. We've got great content. We've got great guests. We're going to have our takeaways. Like I said, I plan to talk to DJ Humphries and some of the former Cardinals out there. We'll have all that. Make sure you subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube, and we'll have those either part of the show tomorrow, or we'll get them up before then. So Fran Duffy actually walked in. He probably heard you speaking high praise about him. I almost I want to keep him maybe far away from this show, so he doesn't have to. If he does talk to Matt Miller, he doesn't get guilty by association with us.
Oh, I love when we do that. It's like when I ripped Billy Price and he thought you were me.
Oh man, we'll table Thomas Dimitroff to tomorrow, and we will talk with the former Atlanta Falcons GM, Sumer Sports, doing some really incredible stuff as far as scouting, analysis, and what he feels like the Arizona Cardinals need to do to get over the hump, go from an 8-win team to potentially the playoffs next year. We're going to get into all that conversation and more. But, of course, make sure you're following along at PHNX_Cardinals on Twitter. Follow Johnny Venerable. It's great for him to jump on earlier than expected in this show. Damon, Dawg doing great work behind the scenes. So is Shane and the entire crew here at ALLCITY. Make sure to check out all the shows going on live from Radio Row. It's our new friends over at DLLS or PHLY, DMVR. CHGO. It's just a ton of content that you're not going to get any better stuff from right now on Radio Row than from ALLCITY. Excited to be here, Johnny. Anything before we let you go and before we talk to you again on Wednesday?
Yeah, just keep it locked in, ring that bell for notifications, and buckle up. This is when, we get Myles Garrett news drop here on a Monday. Get used to it. That's the kind of headlines that we're going to be getting all off season. And like Bo mentioned, I expect the Cardinals to be in on most of these guys. It's going to come down to asking price, but don't sit out free agency and the offseason Cardinals, and don't sit out this fine at PHNX Sports Network here on YouTube, Bo.
Drop a comment what you're willing to give up for Myles Garrett. Is that a first-round pick? Is that too rich for you even there? Or is it a first and some change? Let us know in the comments below and like this video. We will talk to you guys tomorrow live from New Orleans at Radio Row here on PHNX Cardinals.
We all silly like the mayor.